Often you get students that are just come with like great students who are really curious, who you can see in the lectures are looking at you, wanting to learn all the stuff that you're saying, who come with great questions, who you have a great rapport with. I think that the interaction is the best part about teaching, meeting all these people, running into them in the future and saying that, you know, they've actually become something in health policy or health economics, and thinking, wow, I actually, you know, contributed something to the future health policymakers. I've experimented a bit with different forms of assessment in my teaching. Part of the main course I teach on, which is measuring health system performance, is assessed by a group exercise. The purpose being that we could get students to evaluate each other as well in their own contribution, and really not to assess one another, but to learn from one another. And particularly if we're thinking about younger students that are going for jobs where, you know, group work will be important, to understand, you know, how can they most contribute to a group setting, and, you know, when are they maybe acting in a way that actually the other group members don't appreciate, or when are they doing something that other group members really do like. So that was kind of maybe the initial motivation. Also allowing the other groups in the class to also evaluate how the group works as a group. So again, to give them more insight as to how they come across. We're now trying to see if there's other courses that this would lend itself to nicely, and maybe also to be able to test this more systematically to see if there are actual differences in how satisfied students are with the evaluation itself, and if it improves kind of group performance. When people ask which is the best health system, I think the question that they should ask themselves is, if they had to pick a health system, to think of if they could pick any system that they would be covered under, so they would have insurance, and which system would they go to? Alternatively, if they had to think of a system that they would randomly be born into, and they don't know at what part of society they're going to be a part of, or, you know, whether they'll have coverage or not, then which system would they pick? And the answers could be quite different, and that reflects some of the different goals that we look at. So how equitable the system is, or, you know, how much coverage you could get if you're insured in a different system. Often you get people clustering, comparing like with like, so countries that are maybe at similar levels of development or have similar types of systems will look at each other. But you can also learn a lot by looking at somebody completely different from you. In fact, you can maybe even learn the most from them because they're doing things in an entirely different way. So they have things structured in a different way, or spending less, or, you know, much more, and have different resources to play with. So for example, something like the use of mobile phone technology, whereas in parts of Africa, that's very well developed for banking and for health now, to contact health workers, or to ask questions, or even to pay for visits. And that sort of mobile technology doesn't really exist yet in the Western world. So I think some people are looking at potentially the lessons from those systems for more developed systems. So I think generally you can learn just by somebody who's doing something differently. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who's like you, or who spends the same as you, or even if you're the best, it doesn't mean that there's not still room for improvement.